Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube series on fentanyl. I'm Tyler Kendall with Mayken Hazmat Solutions, and I've put together a 6-video series to further educate you on the fentanyl crisis. Mayken is one of North America's leaders in fentanyl remediation. We have been inside and cleaned dozens of fentanyl contaminated properties. It is with this experience and understanding why we can bring you this unique video series on what's inside a fentanyl lab. Welcome to part 1 of Fentanyl, What You Need to Know. To view any of our other videos in the 6-part video series, follow and click the links in the description below. I have set up the videos to get more and more detailed as they go on, and you don't want to miss part 5 and 6, as I show you pictures and videos from inside multiple fentanyl labs we have remediated. So jumping right into it, I'm going to cover what is fentanyl. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid painkiller that's been prescribed for severe and chronic pain management. It's 100 times stronger than morphine, 50 times stronger than heroin, and a lethal dose is only 2 milligrams of fentanyl. Here in this picture we have a lethal dose of heroin next to a lethal dose of fentanyl. Fentanyl can be manipulated at a molecular level, creating different variants and analogs of the fentanyl. This makes it very difficult for law enforcement to detect because they can only detect what they know is out there. Labs in China, where most of the fentanyl in North America comes from, are consistently altering the molecular makeup of fentanyl to make it undetectable at the border. And new variants of fentanyl are being developed faster than we can recognize. Some variants are much weaker than fentanyl, but others, such as carfentanil, are up to 100 times stronger than fentanyl itself. To put this into perspective for you, 2 milligrams is enough for a lethal dose, which is about the same size of 2 grains of salt, and 20 micrograms is enough to feel the effects of fentanyl and potentially bring on overdose symptoms in an inexperienced opioid user. So what does 20 micrograms look like? I want you to imagine you have a single grain of salt in your hand. Imagine cutting that grain of salt in half, and then in half again, and over, until you have 50 equal pieces from that single grain of salt. That's about the size of 20 micrograms. It's almost too small to comprehend, so I put in this chart to give you a visual representation of how small this looks like. The entire chart represents a single grain of salt, and that little sliver is that 1/50th or 2% of that grain of salt. Now you can only imagine in real life, if that was a grain of salt, how small that little sliver would be. Again, that little sliver represents the 20 micrograms that is required to feel the effects of fentanyl. But it gets worse. One of those analogs of fentanyl I was talking about, carfentanil, is 100 times stronger than fentanyl, meaning that the little slice there, the 2% size of a grain of salt, is completely enough to be a potentially lethal dose. This next picture really helps it sink in of how strong this stuff actually is. Here we have the lethal dose of heroin, a lethal dose of fentanyl, and a lethal dose of carfentanil. It is so small you can hardly even see it inside the vial. That's it for our first video. I really hope you learned something today. Stay tuned and click for our next video, which I talk about the risks of fentanyl to users and the general public. See you then.
Mayken Hazmat Solutions.
Making your home cleaner and safer.
Mayken.com.